social media can be life-changing, and it can sort of further narrow the focus of what you think about the world and how you see the world. And so it actually can be a tool for good. It certainly can.
Good morning, everybody, or at least it's morning here. My name is Dennis, and you're watching the Funky Brain Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And today I have a friend of mine from New York City, an entertainment lawyer named Stacy Slotnick. Stacy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty awesome. I just had a long meeting with my company, and I learned a lot today about web development and what really goes in to building a high-powered website. So I had a morning where my brain is like over full. My funky brain is like over full, so that's kind of a problem. But
it's like combustible energy up there.
Right, yeah. It sure is. But I don't have coronavirus. I'm pretty healthy. But I'm in Colorado, as a lot of people know, and you're in New York City, which is like ground zero, no pun intended, for the coronavirus. And how are you and your family and friends and everybody faring back there?
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, it is on lockdown, and everybody is just trying to do the best that they can, working remotely and tending to all kinds of technology issues and helping clients out using these new platforms. It's a brave new world, and I'm grateful every day to be doing what I love, and that includes entertainment law. So,
right, and I know. And so, how did you get into that particular field? That, I was talking to my mother, and she said, when you get out of law school, whatever job you get, it kind of dictates the field of law you end up in. Is that kind of what happened to you, or were you like, I want to represent J-Lo? And
one can only hope, right? No, your mom is very accurate in her assessment. The trajectory right out of law school for me was dictated by the 2008 economic meltdown. So a similar situation we're living in right now. And the only decent jobs available were in personal injury. And I really cut my teeth on that. I learned so much from a trial advocacy perspective. I tried my first bench trial the day after I was sworn in New York State. So I had tons of exposure, great experience, but my path to entertainment law was not linear at all. I started working for a neighbor who owned a public relations company. And she said, look, I don't have the language within which to pitch lawyers and doctors who want to have national TV spots. Could you help me with some talking points, some press releases? And I started doing that, and I sort of fell in love with the whole marketing, PR, law, medicine concept, and sort of merging those fields together. And then I decided I really wanted to work with actors, filmmakers, musicians, the fashion industry. So I went off on my own, and I own my own business, and I love what I do every day. There's a tremendous time commitment. You're never off the clock, because what's going on in New York is something different than what's happening in a film festival in Europe and California. So that's definitely a challenge, but it's certainly not an obstacle, and it's something that I embrace. I mean, I just always want to be there for my clients. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's a great description of everything. You were like, well, I kind of wanted to represent some of these people, these like entertainment people or whatever. You're like, well, who doesn't want to do something like that? So you're really fortunate. Something cool that Bill said, Bill Boggs, who I had on, who you...
Sure. Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah, he said something really awesome that's really stuck with me. And I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I forget it exactly, but he goes, I'm a lucky guy. I've been able to accomplish my childhood dream, what I always wanted to do as a kid. And it stuck with me so much. Ever since he said that, I was like, wow. I'm like, how many people can say that? So many people work really hard for decades to try to figure something like that out. Mm-hmm. And I think he's one of the fortunate ones that was able to fulfill those dreams.
Absolutely. It's pretty powerful when you get to do what you love. And you have to, with entertainment law, there's sort of a balance between the art. So that's the entertainment part. And then the legal prowess and understanding contracts, how to put deals together, how to correctly advocate for your client. I think some of the best entertainment lawyers I've worked with or been on opposing sides of a deal, they're people who really have an appreciation for the richness of what that art is, whether it's music composition or acting or documentarian type work. I think that there's just something special about this field.
There really is, yeah. And something that I hold on to too is I don't know if you know the late great Dr. Wayne Dyer. Did you know who he was? But
no.
He was an inspirational, motivational guy. He has like lots of books. He did it for decades. He passed away like 5 years ago, or maybe not even that long ago. But he's like, one thing that always stuck with me with what he said was like, if you're not doing what you love to do, what you're passionate about, you're going to continue to search for that throughout your entire life. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's like if you're laying in bed in the morning with the covers over your head, dreading getting out of bed to go to work, it's because it's not what you're supposed to be doing, or maybe there's a dream or something inside of you that you need to pursue, so you don't feel that way when you wake up in the morning. Now, even if you're doing what you love, it's not going to be like, rainbows and unicorns every day, but it helps you get out of bed in the morning and not dread. Like if you're doing what you love to do and passionate about, and you run into a brick wall, you're like, oh, well, let's just get through this. But if you're not, if you're miserable in what you're doing, you're unhappy in what you're doing, and you run to a brick wall, and you're like, and then you get sick, you get stressed out and everything. So I think that, I get to interview awesome people, and like, I love my life. And I think that you do too. So you're one of the fortunate ones too, I think, huh?
Absolutely. And that was so poignantly and beautifully stated. What a tough existence to not be passionate about what you're doing, because you spend the vast majority of your time during the day doing it. When I graduated law school, there's certain friends and people I still keep in touch with that there's sort of that mentality like they're just existing. And part of that is because they spent so much money on law school. So they feel that they have to be a litigator, or they have to sort of follow a certain path. And it can get very depleting to your soul, if you're not following what you want to do, or at least testing the waters of what you want to do. When I speak to undergraduates and even some law school students, and I say, it's okay to intern or assist in the fashion industry, in the music industry, to be an intern, in a small production company, because all of those skill sets will help you if you're interested in this entertainment law umbrella. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a tough field to get into. Like, you and I had notes beforehand, and you were like, just get your foot in the door.
Yes.
And I think that's really any industry. Like, if you want to excel in any industry, it's like important to get your foot in the door somewhere and start somewhere, and then you build upon that. And then, so what was one of your big, like, foot in the door experiences?
Well, I think the ability to say yes to that public relations company that I've never done public relations, I've never done marketing before. That happened 8 years ago. And so, a big mantra of mine is to say yes to opportunities, even if you're not sure how they're going to fit into the overall scheme of your business, your career, your professional life. I think that it's really important to think outside the box, especially nowadays. Don't be afraid of technology. I tell attorney clients this all the time that I represent from either a PR or marketing standpoint. It's really good to embrace these new forms of technology and these platforms that, yes, right now they're very important. And guess what? They're going to be critical going forward, whatever happens with this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of the power of, tech in general, but social media. That's how we met. I reached out to Stacy, and I was like, and this was a cold call, and this was a couple months ago, and I was like, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? Because your field intrigued me. And then it's led to so many different paths for both of us. And
yeah, go LinkedIn.
I know. I mean, like, who says it doesn't work, right? And you never know where it's going to go. I reached out to Carl Mecklenburg just blindly, who was an NFL legend who played for the Denver Broncos years ago. And I was like, hey, and this was about, 2 months, or it was around when all this pandemic stuff was starting. And I was like, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? And he's like, yeah, Dennis, that sounds like a great idea. And I was like, first I was like, really? Like around here, he's a legend. He's
iconic.
Yes.
But so are you.
Oh, yes, of course. I'm iconic. Yeah. The iconic.
You are. You're very motivational. So that's understandable. He'd want to have some synergy with you. Yeah,
well, it was really great. And he, one of the things he's like, if my celebrity or my presence can bring light to the situation, then I want to be part of that. And I was like blown away, and a lot of people don't think of it that way. They're like, well, what do I get out of it? Like, how much am I going to make, or who's going to see me? What do I get out of it? And I think that's a wrong way to approach anything, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that circles back to this idea of saying yes. And you may not know how the dots connect, but you'll figure that out along the way, especially as from an entertainment law standpoint. One of the things that I do is I sort of call myself a one-stop shop, because I try and put lots of pieces together. I try and put the legal documents together, but I also ensure that the social media is correct and in place and compelling. And then any sort of PR marketing, I either handle myself or I outsource. And it's just really important to have all the pieces flowing together. And like you were talking about too, this idea of a charitable or philanthropic component is so important, obviously, in every industry now, and the ability to give back and to do something more and to ask more of ourselves. And I always tell clients, especially in the sort of acting, filmmaking space, how can we tie in some sort of philanthropic endeavor to this deal so that somebody else is going to benefit? And it's just, just sort of healing the world. We call in Judaism tikkun olam. And so it's just this idea of healing the world in general.
Yeah, and people pick up on that stuff too. And they pick up on genuine and authentic. Mm-hmm. And they pick up on when you're not being genuine and authentic too. And so some people, I think, are throwing in the philanthropic angle. Mm-hmm. And some people, it's like, it's part of who they are. And I think early on with the social media thing, it was easy to just have a presence, and then if you were showing up on my computer, like, you must be somebody. And I think now it's more like you can see through. I mean, look what we're doing. We're talking 2,000 miles away, and we're having a genuine conversation about life and our professions and whatever. I mean, like, you can't really hide anything within what we're doing right now. And it's really powerful. And so your potential clients and your clients and people who follow you, they're going to pick up on it. And hopefully they see that within me too. But I think there's some people that use it for, taking selfies with somebody just so they can see, their friends can see, oh, look what I'm doing. But there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Absolutely. One of the talking points I had sent to you that you probably were quizzically like, what is she talking about? But the idea of entertainment lawyers not to make it about yourself, because sometimes I'll have, a client ask me, oh, so what interesting projects are you working on? And I just always want the focus to be on the client. Of course, there could be different sort of connections to be made, but I want to make sure that things are always as authentic and in the moment. Because sometimes when you think outside the moment, the results are lackluster.
Yeah, and you're representing the client. You're not the star, right? That's
right. Exactly. So that's why this is a little awkward for me. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just teasing, because I'm always used to putting people on television and movies and music videos. So this is different for me, but thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, this is like so exciting for me, but you can get me into some of those videos. So
absolutely. I'll send the release and the NDA your way right after this.
All right, awesome. Well, don't get me in anything that requires singing because then it will not be successful.
Hmm. What instruments do you play? I feel like you play instruments.
I used to play the guitar quite a bit, but I never excelled at it. I have it. It's over here. I
Okay.
can see it actually, and every once in a while I'll go pick it up, but I haven't learned anything new in like 30 years. But when I do pick it up, there's like, I kind of go away. It's almost like a meditation. It takes
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about, money or relationships or politics or whatever stupid crap is going on. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
like, oh, where do my fingers need to be? And oh, that sounds beautiful. Or how can I make that sound better? And so I do like picking it up. But I think if you take that approach in whatever it is that you're doing, how can I make this more beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
pick up on that stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know if the word Zen is what you'd use to describe that kind of experience, but, so much of entertainment is really about giving people a release and a Zen moment and saying something of value, saying something relevant in the times that we're living. Artists are incredibly, sometimes undervalued because what they give us is not just entertainment from an amusement standpoint, but they make us think. And so, that's sort of one of the brilliant things I love about what I do is trying to put that content out there that gives you a moment of levity or a moment of Zen, or it's just thought-provoking.
Yeah, and when you say that, let's go back to the social media thing, because that's really the best way to hit people nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have huge multi-million-dollar budgets to get on TV and stuff, like you don't need to do that anymore. I think that it's shifting to where you could just get on social media for free or boost a few things here and there and reach people. Are you doing that for your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And trying to do even more of it. So kind of getting clients on a schedule to do regular content creation. It's really important for them to be able to share their musical talents and sort of, even just if it's like, if I represent, a screenwriter, it might be like screenwriting tips. Here are my top 5 that have something to do with comedy and humor. So it's really important to just kind of be a content creator, especially at this moment in time. And again, always offer something of value.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And so for those that are just tuning in, I'm talking with Stacy Slotnick. And now if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
That's a great question. The fastest way is just shoot me an email. It's my full name, Stacy Slotnick, StacySlotnick @gmail.com.
Awesome.
And you can find me on LinkedIn too.
And LinkedIn Twitter. And any other
Twitter.
And on Twitter too. Yeah.
I'll send you all my digits.
That's good. Yeah, Twitter is a great way to reach like lots of people with a sentence. Now, It's doubled it, wasn't it? It was 140 characters. I think it's 280 characters now. I don't use Twitter.
There's lots of fun ways around that too. So you can embed other people's tweets and you can say even more if you want. And the algorithms are pretty cool. So it tells you what's trending and what's popular. It's such a pet peeve of mine. Sometimes I'll come in to a new client and they'll be like scheduling out tweets. And I'm like, no, you can't pre-prepare because you don't know what's going to be trending in that moment. And from an algorithm standpoint, what's going to be most popular. And so, those types of things are very of the moment and you can't plan them out, as we see every day.
Right, yeah. Well, so you've been able to become successful. So for those aspiring young women or men or whoever is like in law school right now and going, which direction should I go? And they're watching this and they're going, I want to be like Stacy. Like, what advice would you give them? What could you tell them? What mistakes have you made that maybe they can learn from now before making them? Like, what can you say to that young aspiring entertainment lawyer to be?
It's a great question. I'm going to answer your first one first, and just to suggest that if there's any sort of specific industry, maybe it's modeling or music or filmmaking, there's lots of different job opportunities that aren't related to the law. But again, it goes back to sort of learn the art of what it is that you eventually want to do. to have an appreciation for artists is something that if you're interested in this field, you probably already have. So not only will you gain further interest and sort of understanding, but you get to know what makes an artist tick and how to propel their artistic as well as, legal endeavors forward. There's a lot of, wonderful clinics and law programs through, top law schools, but not everybody can take advantage of that. I mean, it's super cost prohibitive sometimes. And, they only take a certain percentage. And so, even if you truly, the people who started out at CAA working in the mailroom now own the company. So there is no job too small, don't get too big for your britches. I'm a big fan of that one too. So just try and work in any way that you can in the entertainment field. There's so many opportunities working for a theatrical producer. Do assistant work, do internships, just kind of get your feet wet. And, in terms of some of the obstacles I've come across, I would say this field is not for somebody who wants to take vacations and check out, because that's just never happened to me in the 10 years I've been doing this. It just doesn't exist. Gratefully, knock wood, my husband had some medical, yes, major, a medical challenge last year, and he's doing so well. Again, knock wood, yay. But this idea that I wasn't available just didn't exist. I mean, in ICU, in the hospital, you just have to constantly be available. You never know when something's going to break and your client's going to need to take advantage of it, or there's a deal that needs to be hammered out more. There's some, music festival opportunity that you need to review the contract or negotiate terms. Obviously, people are understanding, things come up. But in entertainment, just the clock never stops, especially now with social media, with YouTube. It's just good to be as available as possible. But again, I think when you love what you do, it's an obstacle, but it's not so terrible,
Yeah, I do know. And I was going to say, until you said that, I was going to hop on that exactly.
Oh, sorry.
No, I love it. That's one of my favorite things. And I'm glad that you know it. I mean, not everybody knows that, but it's pretty popular saying nowadays, but it's like, when you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life.
Right.
And that's one of the messages that I just heard you say. The other one is that no job is too small. And even if you have to take a job that doesn't seem like it's heading in the right direction. One thing I say, I've had massive success. I started a business years ago, and I've had massive failure. My business that I started was my third or fourth business, and the other few failed miserably, caused lots of debt and heartache. And then I had one that really took off, and then I lost that. And then I tried to get it back. I won't bore you with all the details of that, but I tried to get it back, and I spent 5 years getting it back, and it kept failing. And then I realized that I had to, I was successful for myself, and then I wasn't anymore. And I had to say, look, now I have to be an adult and get a job and work for somebody again, which was humbling. It hurt my ego, my poor little ego. Mm. And, but what I say now is we all have dreams and things that we want to pursue and be successful at. We want people to know about it and all these things. But those dreams you definitely need to have, but you have to finance those dreams. You have to work for them. And sometimes it means working outside of what you think is going to get you to the top, whatever that is, or taking that job that's beneath you, right? Or you just have to find out why you're not getting there and take a job that's going to help you to get there. It might be something small that's going to teach you that what you've been missing. In my case, that's kind of what happened. There was a marketing piece that I was missing in my business mind. So I've been working on that for the last few years.
How did you find working for somebody else and then being an entrepreneur? Well,
another thing I've realized to answer, that part of the question is that, one, it was humbling to go back to work for somebody after not having to. But I always talk to people, and you hear it a lot now because you hear all these people they call themselves CEOs, but they don't really do anything. They start a business, they start a Facebook page, and then I'm the CEO of this company, and then I'm going to sit around and smoke pot and play video games all day. But that's not what, I mean, it takes a lot of work to be a CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's a lot of advice out there for pursue your dreams, do everything you want, start your business, and anybody can do it. And you can now because of the technology. But I think that there are some people that are also born to be good workers. Not everybody's
Yes.
cut out for working for themselves or starting a business. There's a lot of stress. You don't just start a business. In fact, there's a difference between being good at what you're good at, like your craft, like
Mm-hmm.
being a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, and running a business. Those are two separate things. It's hard to run a business if you don't know how to run. Like business is its own craft. And then there's doing what you're good at. That's why people have mentors and consultants. Like, all right, well, I'm a good painter. I can paint houses. I can paint inside or outside houses. But running a business, a painting business, two separate things. There's accounting, marketing. There's all the different pieces that go into that. So
It takes a village. Yeah.
it takes a village. It really does. And I think, and at first, if you do want to truly be a business owner and start a business, you have to wear a lot of hats and you have to do all that stuff yourself because you don't have the money to hire all the people to do those things. And that's how you really learn a lot. And then, but some people aren't cut out for it.
So true. So true. You said you made so many good sort of like guiding life and entrepreneur principles in that statement. So, I mean, one of the things I think you touched upon that I think applies to me is this idea of hard work and hustle. And, you know, one of the challenges, right? Challenge is a fair word during coronavirus. So usually I'm on a plane somewhere, or I'm at an event, I'm at a movie premiere. So I'm just constantly in my house. And so there's no beginning and end to the day. There's really no stop time, so to speak. There's always deadlines coming up and things that need to get done. And so that's been unique because usually having those types of conferences or events to go to, it provides a stop time, you know, to do the regular stuff, the paperwork, the legal negotiations. Now everybody's available all the time. So, you know, the expectation is that you're always available, and that's totally fine. It's different. You know, it's a pivot for sure.
It is. And you're staying busy though. And I think that that's one of the important things to stay focused on in this time of quarantine, isolation. Mm-hmm. All of this is really unprecedented stuff. And I think a lot of people don't know which end is up. Now, we're lucky enough to have an opportunity, and we're lucky enough to have a job, at least for now, how things are going. But I think this is an important time for a lot of people to realize, like, if you don't have anything going on, create some opportunity. Like what we were just talking about in the last half hour, we gave out some really valuable nuggets, even though it might not have seemed like it. Look at the technology that's available. Create a LinkedIn account, a Facebook account, whatever your vibe is, and then get on there and connect with people. You know, create these opportunities, reach out to people, and create a busy day, right? With work, like, you know, get out, put yourself out there, create relationships that are going to lead to something. And again, you never know where things are going to lead, ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of grab life by the horns and jump on all of these different platforms. And I think we started out talking about what's your passion and how do you get involved in what you really want to do and how do you find that opening. And there's no time like the present for people to figure out what it is that drives them. And it's never too late to do that. One of my clients is a model who is in that May Musk genre. Yeah. So she's in her 70s and, you know, she is killing it. She gets booked for every New York, Paris Fashion Week. And it is sort of the opportunities are out there. You just have to have that passion and that hustle.
I agree. And another thing that I want to touch on is like, it kind of goes with the social media piece that we were just talking about. But there's a lot of people that are like, well, I tried social media, it doesn't work. Well, it does work, but maybe you're not doing it the right way. So a lot of people fail because they're like, well, all right, I put this post up and I didn't have 1 million followers like an hour later. So what happened?
Yeah.
So that's not how it goes. It's like people aren't necessarily going to reach out to you. People aren't necessarily going to like love your stuff, right? People want to be heard. So social media is really about engaging with other people, taking time out of your busy day to go look at what other people are doing, comment on their stuff, reach out to somebody and say, wow, you know what? That was a great post. Because you know what people love talking about more than anything else in the whole world?
Themselves.
Right. So you can initiate a conversation where these people could talk about themselves. You're going to be a hero. Now you just made a friend. Now you created a relationship that maybe you can do business with somebody, or just have a friend. And then you never know where things at.
It's so true. It's about those quality, authentic relationships like we were talking before. If you're going to pick a charity or some sort of nonprofit to connect with and to bolster, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and that it's something near and dear to your heart. We all have sort of charities that we're very passionate about. And so, but people see through, what's inauthentic. And so being able to have that quality connection on social media, it's so much more valuable than, I always tell clients, subscriber numbers, follower numbers, yes, they're important, but it's the engagement metric that we need to be focusing on. How many positive comments, how many likes, did people respond in an uplifting way and say, thank you, I had no idea about this, but you gave me something of value. Or sometimes social media can be life-changing and it can sort of further narrow the focus of what you think about the world and how you see the world. And so it actually can be a tool for good. It certainly can.
I think it actually is. And this goes back to like learning more. If you're not being successful in an area, find out why. Like find what the root cause is of that, right? Not just like, oh, I'm a failure or people aren't engaging with me. What's wrong with them? Well, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? What can you do better to change your situation? And then do something different, right? That insanity thing, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over.
Exactly.
Expecting different results. So if I keep putting up posts that are kind of irrelevant or just like pictures of
me. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And people aren't engaging, maybe I need to shift directions. Maybe I need to do something different. If I want different results, I need to do something different. And people get stuck in that pattern of, you're a great example. Like you're successful and the people you represent are successful. So there's people sitting on the couch going, why can't I be like them? Well, you're not working towards that. I mean, they don't see the path that got you to that level. They just see the end result and they wonder, why am I not like that? And then they get angry. Why am I not like that?
Right. And then usually when you have that discontent, you need to channel it to in a way that's going to be productive, right? So, I mean, one of the things that I love about your website and I think is your passions is this idea of like advice and seeking advice and mentorship. And I mean, I would say personally, my mentors would be my clients in large part, because I'm always learning from them. And I certainly, hope and believe that they learn from me. But I think that there's so many different arenas and different fields that I work with that it's wonderful to see somebody's goals succeed and come to fruition. I mean, what about yourself? Like, how would you suggest people find mentors if it's maybe outside of their profession?
Well, there are a lot of different channels and it depends on what it is that you're going after. Ironically, I found one of my current mentors. Well, I'll get to that in a second. I found him on LinkedIn. I reached out to a guy who's a high top level guy in his field and a very, very successful guy. And I had him on my podcast a while ago, and we just started talking, and we got on the topic of mentorship. And after I shut the camera off, after our episode was done, I was like, would you be my mentor? This light just went off. And I was like, I couldn't believe that it happened. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, really? Like, this is like an idol is going to be like a mentor. But I talked about this in my book, Funky Wisdom. But I think it's important to have like not just one mentor, but to have an expert or a mentor in every area of your life. Like, I am not a doctor. So if I get sick, I need to go to the doctor. I'm not a lawyer. If I need to go to court, if I need representation, I need to hire a lawyer. I can't represent myself. I hate doing taxes. I need an accountant every year because I hate doing that. And some people love doing that, so they don't need to do that. But I was taught to have an expert in every area of your life. So somebody to run stuff by. You know, I'm not just talking about going to the doctor if you get sick or break your leg, but what direction should I go? I think that everybody should have mentors, coaches, whatever you want to call it. It's actually a symbol of strength, like asking for help. Like a lot of people think that's a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength that you're able to ask for help, to get out of your own brain. I don't know this. So why don't I ask somebody instead of spinning my wheels and wasting time and resources for 3 years? I can ask somebody and get the answer in a week. Like, why wouldn't I do that?
It's so true. I work with a beloved Emmy-winning actor, and he is also a musician. And it's not just because he's been in this business for almost 4 decades. I mean, he's been in the industry a while. And it's not just sort of entertainment advice that he gives, but it's life advice. And it's like life advice from like these major honchos of the industry, but it's sort of like, you know, what happened on set when there was like a family issue, or, you know, here's how, you know, you overcome this problem. And it's something really beautiful when you connect with a person in that way. And it doesn't have to be somebody older than you. It's just a matter of someone who's got a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom, and just having an organic connection with somebody.
Yeah. And I would say like somebody you respect. Right? Somebody who maybe, I want to be like that on some level, right? Sure. You don't go up to somebody who you're like, maybe they have lots of money, but they're not nice or they're not happy or whatever. You want to go up to somebody you respect, honor, want to emulate, and be like, hey, how did you get like that? And the other piece of the puzzle of all this is it's kind of a relief that I don't have to figure everything out on my own. I can just ask somebody who I respect, how did you get there? And then they'll say, why don't you try this? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they were successful doing that. Well, that was much easier than banging my head against the wall and wasting thousands of dollars for a couple of years. Right. It's a sign of strength, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I love that. And then the other thing is to continue to find those people too. Like if you run across, and sometimes you don't connect with somebody, and that's okay too. It's like you're not going to connect with everybody, but if you find somebody you connect with and you're like, wow, this is great, and they're genuine and authentic and successful in whatever area that is, whether it's maybe not just financial, but they're peaceful and happy and they emit awesome energy. Say, how do you get like that? Right. And so I'm experiencing this in my life. I don't feel good. How can I get there? How can I get past this? So I think it's like always having those people in your life, and the more the merrier, right? Like
absolutely. It's good.
Success.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent. I mean, I love school. So
I know you're one of those nerds that read a lot and did.
Oh my goodness. I always have my highlighters with me.
I think you graduate cum laude.
I love learning. I'm very type A. So things have to, I like to do things right, or you don't do it at all. That's one of my key mantras. But I think that it's in going with this thread of mentorship, it's good to always be learning, and it's good to always develop relationships with people whose opinion you value, who have overcome obstacles, who can help guide you. And I think it's a two-way street. I mean, there's so many people in this industry that have given just sort of nuggets of gold of advice. And, they though themselves may not be as attuned to like in demand or streaming services and things on the tech front. So it's always like, I try and make it mutually beneficial as much as possible, because again, when you can have this kind of relationship where there's give and take, it's always going to, yield better results.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always be learning. I love that. That's a mantra I've had in my life for a while now, but not always. Like there was a period where I was, messed up. Like most people know my background. I came from addiction, and there was like probably 15 years. They say when you start drinking or drugging or whatever, you stop growing emotionally. And that's kind of what happened to me. I started drinking heavily when I was 15, 16 years old. And that's kind of when I stopped like growing and learning and doing new things. Like, I learned enough to like get by, and I stopped learning until I was like 31, 32 years old. And then now I'm like a
sponge. Like you are the complete opposite of that. Yeah. Yeah. You want to soak it all in.
Yes. Because I'm like, and then I was like, oh, I wasted 15 years of my life, but did you? Or it helped build me into who I am now.
Exactly.
Right. And so, sure, I might change a couple things if I could go back, which you can't. So I don't dwell on it anymore. We all have a couple of things on our list of things that we could have done differently, but I can't. So what can I do to move forward? And that's where I focus on now, and always be learning. I love that you said that, because it's like, once I think I know the rules change.
Absolutely. And to surround yourself with people who are going to support you and embrace you. In business, it's okay here and there to have the naysayers and people who will challenge you in a healthy way. But in general, in life and in business too, it's really smart to have people who have good energy, who are going to be supportive, and because we all lift each other up. There's no a rising tide lifts all ships. It's true.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. So we've been talking with Mrs. Stacy Slotnick, and she's an entertainment lawyer in New York City. And again, if somebody wants to reach out to you, how would they do that?
They can email me, Stacy Slotnick, StacySlotnick @gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we'll be sure to connect. And thank you so much, Dennis, for this. This was great.
Thank you. I loved it. I loved our time together. It was a nice, authentic, genuine conversation.
Absolutely. And thank you for being an awesome podcasting partner in this. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to the Funky Brain podcast, and listening to Stacy and I chat about life and business and overcoming obstacles and getting where you want to be. Thanks, Stacy. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.